The federal government has banned the export of liquefied petroleum gas produced in Nigeria as prices continue to rise sharply. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, that's for gas now, Ekpo, has announced the ban effective November 1, 2024, directing LPG producers to stop exports or import equivalent volumes at reflective prices. The government will also implement a domestic pricing framework within 90 days indexed to local production cost. Additionally, a long-term plan to develop LPG infrastructure over the next year aims to stabilize prices and improve supply, ensuring affordability for Nigerians. This is not the first time we're hearing a story like this. In fact, if you check, you find out that months before now, we heard this last year, same talks about stopping exports so that we can have more, and then so that the price can come down. But then we don't know how effective that has been over time.
You know, it's still amazing to me that we're exporting what we do not have in sufficiency, because I remember that a news headline came up, I think that was some weeks ago, about the minister saying in a few years' time there may be shortage of gas for Nigerians' usage. What we say there is a shortage of in a few years' time, we are still sending it out. We are still sending it out when we are saying that our people may not even have sufficient gas in the next 10 years, in a decade from now. And we still see people sending it out. How greedy can people be? How greedy, how self-centered can people be? Just for your own interest, because you make the money out of it, you want to do it at the detriment of the whole nation. Because at the end of the day, when we have an announcement from the minister is like the apex representation of a particular ministry. Like the president in that place, that's the eye of the president there. And the eye of the presidency in the ministry says, based on insider report, based on technical report, we have discovered and concluded that if we go the way we are going, in the next 10 years, we will no longer have gas for use.
Is it not surprising that we're even importing gas? Is that not surprising enough?
Like they said we should look forward to them installing structures for the production of liquefied natural gas. So let's see. They want to install more facilities.
Yes, because we already are producing that.
See.
That's why we're able to export.
Let's see.
But then the big question is, how come we're even importing? It's for like, let's even look at it now. You're importing, you're exporting, the same thing. I'm trying to understand that. So you're producing something, you're importing it, the same thing you're producing, and you're still exporting it. That is something that should really be looked into. Some of the things that we do in Nigeria are quite funny, especially when we look at our natural resources that we have. How we are harnessing it, how we're able to use it, how we're utilizing it is just something that should be looked into and improved upon, seriously. But then, how do you think that we can really reduce the price? I know you've talked about them referring to what they said about the increasing production and all of that. But like I said, this is not the first time we're talking about quitting export of the LPG. We've been talking about it ever since. Go check it. You see different months where this statement, this same news, exactly the same headline was, published. And then we're asking, if we tried it before, we stopped exports for as long as we did, and yet the price keeps increasing, and again we stop export for as long as we did, price keeps increasing, don't you think we should start looking at other ways in which we can reduce the price of cooking gas? Like Phil, when the increase started, it looked like a joke. But what we buy now, almost every household is affected by this.
Of course, everybody is going to be affected.
So what other means do you think we should start looking at to actually reduce the price like it looks like is the goal?
Two things I would say. Number one, expansion. Number two, policies. Policies must be put in place and must be driven down to execution stage and properly executed. Because when you say we stopped exporting, how did you know they stopped exporting? Somebody said we stopped paying fuel subsidy, and somebody says we are still paying fuel subsidy.
After a while.
So how do you know that the news announcement was what happened down there? So at the end of the day, we just come out, we're making... we're making Nigeria...
If we stop export, sorry to cut you, if we stop export, is that not going to increase the price instead of reduce the price like we've been promised? And we don't have enough. That's why we are importing, right? And then we're exporting. That is the money that's coming in, supposed to be reinvested in that particular sector.
Supposed to be. I like the word supposed to be. You know, exporting means that we are sending it out. And we are sending out what we do not have enough of. So when you are sending the little we have out, it means that there is going to be scarcity. Those who have that little that is remaining will increase the price. They will hoard it and increase the price. That is why the price would keep increasing. So it means that even though declarations for stop and ban on exportation was made, they never stopped. Because if they stopped, then we would have the one that we have available to our people. And when, you know, one thing that makes things expensive is scarcity. Whenever a thing becomes scarce, it becomes expensive. Somebody who has possession of it will sell it at any price, and people will buy it at any price because they need it. So it means that we never stopped exporting even after declarations were made. And that's what I'm saying. The government is not realizing that we are damaging the mind of Nigerians, getting to the extent where Nigerians will no longer believe in Nigeria. Nigerians will no longer believe in the government. Nigerians will no longer believe in whatever is said. Secondly, when this continues to deepen, we would end up having a system that will always give us a bad public image and global image out there. Because if you tell us that export is banned, export should be banned. If export is banned, then it therefore means that there should be a bit of sufficiency over here, because when you are not giving it out, it's stored back home. If it is stored back home, then we should have sufficient enough. And if we have sufficient enough, it shouldn't be scarce. If it is not scarce, it shouldn't be expensive.
Okay. We are looking forward to that time when what we produce here will not be expensive here. We're looking forward to it.